Hi, Study Sex fans. This is Megan answering more of the questions that arose at a workshop that took place in Northampton, Mass. At the Smith campus. So the question that we're going to be raising today is, I was asked, what makes someone a slut? This is a question that comes up a lot in high schools, a lot in college classes, and it's of particular importance because there can be a whole genre of trying to shame women into feeling sexual. So usually what ends up happening is when someone says in a class, oh, she's a slut, oh, she's a whore, I'll stop the class and I'll be like, okay, let's figure out, when does somebody become a slut? So I would like a show of hands. Does someone become a slut when they have sex with 3 people? People raise their hand. Okay, keep your hands raised. Does someone become a slut when they have sex with 6 people? Does someone become a slut when they have sex with 2 people? Does someone become a slut when they have sex with 2 people within 24 hours? And people will start to notice that there are many different definitions of when someone becomes a slut. And the reason for this is because there's no definition of when someone becomes a slut. And that's what causes people to be so afraid of becoming one, because you can be labeled a slut at any point. You could be labeled a slut because you wore a skirt that was too short, you had too much cleavage showing, maybe your hair was done in a different way, you had a lot of makeup on, you were flirting with someone, you were appearing sexually interested in someone, you were watching pornography. These are all things that can turn a woman into a slut. And I mean this in the negative sense of the word. There's also a whole genre of reclaiming the word and identifying as a slut, because at some point in most women's lives, they're going to be labeled a slut. And so some women have decided to take back the word and to start to identify themselves as a slut, as a way of being like, this is me. I am a sexual person and I'm okay with it. And so I'm going to call myself a slut in an empowering type of way. So to put your mind at ease, there is no definition on how someone can become a slut. You can choose to label yourself one if you want to. You can choose to call someone out on their behavior if they call you or another person a slut, and you're like, why are you doing that? Why are you calling them a slut? Do you have any definition of when someone becomes a slut, or is it just based on your morals? But it is a question that needs to be called out, and it is something that needs to be addressed, because what's really going on here is trying to shame people for their sexuality, and that's never okay. So thanks for asking the question. If it happens to you or nearby and you hear somebody calling someone a slut, call them out on it. Ask them what they really mean. And if you want to identify yourself a slut, as long as you're okay with it and you're taking the word back, it's all on you. It's all about empowerment. So have fun playing consensually, and thanks for asking the question.